Edgelords unite, it's finally Reaper's time to shine. In today's video, we're going to break down the most important Reaper tactics that the professional players in the Overwatch League have been using that you most definitely can use in your own ranked games. Flanking, timing, target selection, and the almighty kill shot will all be covered today. But before we get into it, shout out to the Overwatch League who are sponsoring this video. You'll want to tune in for the playoffs tonight, this weekend, and in 2 weeks, the grand final. This week's playoff matches are insane. I'll leave the schedule linked in the description so you can see it adjust for your local time zone. These final 6 teams are incredible on this meta and should make for some very tense games. You can check that out by tuning into the Overwatch League live on Twitch, and it'll be linked in the description for you to check out. A few aspects of Reaper's kit we want to go through. The first one is flanking. Shadow Step got that buff a while back, which didn't make a dent in the GOATS meta, but in a forced roll lock 2-2-2, Shadow Step making you invulnerable on the point of contact is incredibly good. A lot of pros are shining on Reaper in the playoffs, but I think Surefour is one of the best because he's one that gets value out of the Reaper even when his Doomfist is getting shut down. Put too much focus on hydration and then Surefour has been picking up the slack. How does this work? I think it's useful to envision Shadow Step as almost being like a Doomfist ability. If Doomfist can launch himself into the fray being durable at the chance of a one-hit kill, Reaper can do the same with Shadow Step, getting his close range Hellfire shotguns into position to do insane damage. You want to be using Shadow Step when the fight has committed. Don't go for too early of a flank. It's okay to be out of the fight for quite a while until your team has fully committed, then Shadow Step in deep. And what you notice in a lot of these engages, Surefour is syncing up with his Orisa player and his Doomfist oftentimes to be hitting a hard W in sync with the Shadow Step casting. You get a good angle of it here. Roar is galloping towards the front line, sending a Halt in sync for this Death Blossom to show up. The Halt comes, locks the Moira in place, and yeah, she can fade out of it, but has already taken a lot of damage. And then you have Reaper set up in position in close range to carry the fight. We see the same thing used up against the Spark again on King's Row, where they wait for the enemy to commit, where enough of them are past that center point so that when Reaper comes in with Death Blossom, they'll be all around him. Notice as well, again, Roar is galloping towards the front line here to throw an offensive shield. In this double barrier meta, getting your tanks to position shields aggressively with you is going to make your Reaper unstoppable, and that's how you get for these really crazy team wipes. The other major use of Shadow Step is a little less complicated, requires less teamwork, and it's just simply teleporting to the high ground, controls so much space. Look as the Spark are forced to retreat to the backside of the point. As soon as Surefour decides to Shadow Step to the top, look at how much of the space he controls. The Spark are funneled into a backside corner, and with his team pushing up on the other end, Surefour is here to clean up, and Spark just have no chance to come back from that position. Now, the next two aspects of Surefour's Reaper game that we want to clue into are mastering the Reaper kill shot and then navigating the fight in order to set up for opportunities to do this. Of course, Shadow Stepping in at super close range does this as well, but what do we do when we don't have the opportunity to use that ability? Here, this is a fight where the Spark have major headway, man advantage, popping ultimates, pressuring the Gladiators back. Surefour's team is staying at a safe distance, waiting to support him as he holds down the hotel, and at the point of recontest, Surefour hits 2 outrageous kill shot eliminations that swings the entire fight back. That's the crazy thing about Reaper. Similar to Doomfist and his rocket punch into a wall, Reaper can insta-kill too at super close range, and it all comes down to mastering the spread and barrel stuffing it into your enemy's face. When you learn this technique, you can pick up one-shot kills to a surprising degree. And remember, when you get closer to your enemy, it is actually fairly difficult to aim. This might be uncomfortable to do because medium range is the easiest to aim at, whereas the closer you are to your enemy, the faster their movement is going to look from your perspective. So to really nail this, you need great crosshair discipline and fast reactions whenever an enemy changes their movement direction. Here in the hotel, Surefour is without an escape, so the enemy DPS knows it's time to punish, but hitting these perfectly placed shots deletes them, and these are the eliminations you want to be looking for in the chaos of the fight as Reaper. For the last few clips, we'll look at Surefour combine some of these ideas and his decision making throughout the fight. Shadow Steps aggressively, but uses Wraith just to be safe from the rocket punch, stays at the fringes of the fight until he has Shadow Step back, then uses its mobility to close the distance quickly to pop out and land a Death Blossom in sync with the Orisa pull, with some really strong cleanup shots in kill shot range up against this Sigma at the end, and when you just start jamming jamming the shotguns in your enemy's face, there's not a whole lot they can do about it. It's then combining everything we've learned in the video so far, where you'll want to focus on your movement and fluidly changing during the fight to dodge the enemy's cooldowns, put in damage where you can, press forward, but still stay safe. The way to maximize this is to combine the info of all of the enemy's cooldowns alongside the health that you'll be gaining once you factor in the shots you can hit at close range. You may expect lifesteal to get a bit of a nerf, which is going to change some of this in the future, but for now, when it's still at the 40% value, you can do some crazy things. And what Surefour is really good at with using his mobility is making sure that he puts himself at angles where he'll be relatively safe even if the enemy Doomfist lands a punch on him. This is the key in order to turn Reaper into a bigger threat against Doomfist than the other way around, is by holding firm on positions more out in the open than you'd expect. Normally Reaper likes to play on corners, but up against Doom, you'd rather be closer to the middle of the brawl, landing shots to add sustain to your life total while not giving the enemy Doom an opportunity to punch you into a wall. And then once you deal with that threat, well, everything else is kind of easy pickings. Reaper is, let's just face it, kind of an overpowered hero right now in the 2-2-2 context. So adapting these playstyles and little tricks, I think you're really going to find that you can farm up some free SR from the damage roll when you start to combine everything we learned here today. But if you're trying these tactics and finding them still falling short, more often than not, the thing you're lacking is target priority. Shooting the right target, heck, even just finding them in the chaos of the fight, can be difficult in a hectic brawl. Target priority is a complicated concept and can change fluidly from meta to meta, and you may think inherently, well, Reaper's a tank buster, so I should always go for tanks. But if you've been paying attention to the order that Surefour marks his targets, and it's almost always the enemy damage first. That makes sense because they're in a mirror match, so obviously they're kind of jockeying for the same position, but if the enemy has a damage character, especially Doomfist above all else, but a damage character that is a threat to your team, you want to eliminate the threats first. Tanks can do a lot of work, but if you can't actually kill them, they're not going to be your best targets. You want to take out the things that can kill your team so you can maintain man advantage, if at all possible. Obviously, if a Pharah is miles away, you can't target her, so you have to change this based on the matchups. But just remember that tanks are pretty much easy cleanup as soon as the enemy threats are gone, because if they don't have damage characters alive, your healing should be enough to withstand up against the enemy only having tanks. Now, this is an example of me failing target priority, where even though I know the Mercy's coming in for a res, I hope my team can deal with it, and I'm still hunting laser focused on looking for the next major threat, but really they're all dead. And I had a small window where we weren't actually in threat of the enemy Reaper, so I didn't have to chase him, and if I punish the Mercy res, maybe we snowball in faster and actually are able to get the cap here. It really can be that intricate of what you're shooting at the right time and what you focus and who you think the priority is from moment to moment that changes your ability to carry on Reaper, and this is something Surefour really excels at. Sometimes the quote-unquote threat won't be an actual DPS, maybe it's a support ult that you need to neutralize or a big tank ult that is going to swing the fight, but there's infinite ways that that can play out. So you want to be on the lookout to adjust that for your own given game, and once you start to perfect that, you'll realize that you don't really need other DPS heroes in this meta. Like, Reaper can do it all if you do these things perfectly. Guys, did you enjoy today's video? If you did, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, you're going to want to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you actually get notified when our videos go live. Link in the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, dank memes, and Overwatch League predictions. Got about half of them right in the playoffs so far. Far from perfect, but hey, who has been with these crazy playoffs? You can check us out with a follow and continue the discussion on there. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.